Alright folks, welcome back to another video. I haven't done a video in quite some time, however I'm back doing a video in Xplane for the first time. Here we are in Flight Factor's A350xwb. This may be the second or third time that I've even touched this aircraft, but I feel confident enough that we together, me and you that is, so I better get some input from you, can get this bad boy off the ground. We're in Denver. We are headed to San Francisco International. We are flying VATSIM. However, there is no air traffic control covering us, not the ground, tower, approach, nor center. But we will see how things mature as we travel along. You never know with VATSIM. They like to keep it interesting. All right, let's jump in the cockpit. A couple of little disclaimers here. Number one, I just updated this open broadcast software, which is my screen capture, because it was doing a lot of vibration when I panned around the cockpit. It seems to have stopped or subsided with this new update. I can't promise that. We'll see how the video comes out, however. Without further ado, oh, and let me tell you, lastly but leastly, since I don't have any editing, I'll probably break this video up into 3 segments. The, pre-flight, pre-departure situation, the engine start, taxi, and departure or takeoff, and then the approach and landing. So 3 segments. One, basically messing with the cockpit, the FMC, getting it boarded, fuel, passengers, all that good stuff. The second, engine start, taxi, and takeoff, and then the third, approach, landing, and taxi in. You fast forward, you click and use what you want. Hopefully it's entertaining. Hopefully I get some comments. This particular aircraft, the A350 in the sim world and real life, there's a lot of information missing. For example, when we set this aircraft up, it doesn't calculate the V speeds like, Aerosoft Airbuses or anything like that. So I'm going to have to do some calculations with the V speeds and hopefully they're correct. Also, another thing, on this particular edition of the Flight Factor A350 and all editions they have so far, the FMC only works off of the basic Xplane stuff. So I'll have to manually put in all of the routes for the SID and the Star. So, but it's still interesting enough to fly, so we'll do so now. Alright, so let's get some power on the bird. We won't mess with any of this just yet. Let's jump down to this trusty, rusty, dusty screen here. And let's go down to the ground service. And we're going to go back to ground equipment. And of course, we want the first and most important thing that we want is the GPU or ground power unit. We'll do both left side and right side. Let's get the chocks and the stairs and the passenger bus. And there's something here you can just put into auto config and see it just did the rest of the 3. I was down, maybe I was missing 2 of these, so it just did everything that I was doing. But I just wanted to show you that you could hit auto config and get this open. Now also, in the meantime, we also want to put this into the load configuration, or we won't be able to put the fuel and the passengers on. Now what we need to do, folks, we need to jump back up top, and you see we have our ground power available. We want to click our ground power on, as you see there. And now we want to go ahead and tie the bus. Now if you hit some things that aren't supposed to come on right now, like this for example, I'm showing you, it'll just say fault. So that doesn't need to get cut on though. But a lot of this stuff will get cut on. We of course also need to come up here and we need to get our nav situation going on here. And we can cut on all of this happy stuff up here. Now, on this panel here, this happens to be our hydraulics, as you can see here, and our fuel. We can actually keep these off for the moment, but you can turn them on if you want. Again, they'll just go to a fault if they're not supposed to be on yet. That's one of the cool things. Here's our hydraulic stuff. We're not going to get that on yet. And then we've got our cooling for our vents. We want to get that on so we don't overheat anything, especially with our avionics. And then we'll get these on here. which is our data and cab data to the avionics and the gate link and all that good stuff. The ground, the cargo air conditioning, we don't need to put that on yet. We don't need the packs on. Again, the APU bleed should be on, but if you hit it and it says up, you weren't supposed to do that. So now it's back on. So that's the cool thing about this aircraft, is that you can most certainly click these buttons and it won't necessarily do anything harmful to you or the aircraft. It'll just jump to a fault. All right, so let's jump back down. As you see here, our aircraft is pretty much coming alive. You can also see here on this display that we have some certain doors open. Now there's some stuff about this aircraft that I had to learn on my own. You know, because a lot of the videos done in this were done in some foreign language, which I don't understand. I only understand the two, Spanish and English. So I don't understand all of Portuguese, which I should understand some, but not enough to know what they were talking about. Nor the French and all the other stuff they're talking about. So this is the FMS stuff. It's pretty cool here. All this is touchscreen, so we can just highlight over that and click FMS, and it'll come here. Right now we don't have anything in FMS programmed. We will be using another one, and these are all for the checklist. So we go to our power up checklist. Aircraft battery power, that's a check, but once you click that, it comes all the way on. It came all the way down to green. Electrical power up, confirm. Well, folks, it looks to me like we are powered up. We've got battery 1, emergency, all that stuff up. And if you just want to verify again, you just come up here to your electric panel. And outside of us having the generators on, we have everything here on. So I think we're pretty much good to go there. So we'll leave that alone. All right. Now what we'll do is we will confirm this one, and it's all green. So if you just come down here and hit next, rather, I was trying to hit complete. Now we have to do the ECAM. So we already did the NSS data to avionics, the cab data to NSS, the gate link, the cooling. Now the cabin fans, I don't believe that I did. So let's come up here and take a look at the cabin fans. Let's see here. Cabin, wireless. I don't think those are the cabin fans. Let's see here. I always get confused. Here's the vents. That's good. Cabin fans, where are you? Alright, you know what? I think we're good. Hydraulics up here. I mean, I like the way the overhead is broken down and it's well labeled. Here's the cabin. Okay, here's the venting. Those are on a fault. Those are off. You know, let's turn them on. And those can go on now, obviously. As far as the cabin fans, I think we are... You know, here's some cabin stuff here. But... airflow... let's turn this thing on. There we go. I don't think those are fans necessarily. Airflow's low, so that would be on. We don't want any packs on right now, of course. And close. We'll get our isolation. I believe this is the isolation valve. We'll get that to open, because we will need that for engine start. All right, so let's just jump back down here and let's just say that this is GOOD. That's done. On to the next, folks. APU master switch. All right, that's for APU start. We're not starting the APU just yet. Let's go ahead and look at our radios. Now, one thing about these radios, they are also slaved to the FMS as well. So, for example, we come over here and I decide to go ahead and put this situation here to the let's see, I don't think it's ATC com. ATIS and as you can see, I'm still kind of dilly-dallying with this information. Now, I know about this screen here, so it's not that, but we can manipulate the transponder from here. But at any rate, if we wanted to come here and just change the radio, we can click on this side. This is the standby side. And then, of course, we can type in what we want. I'm going to type in 122, the VATSIM Unicom. Now that's in there. Now it's on standby. No, it's not. See, it's over here right now. So that's pretty cool how it does that. Here's your channel 2. Again, if you go to the nav, all the VOR, ILS, you can manipulate that there. If you come over here to squawk, right now it says slaved because, again, it is slaved to the other panel, which I was showing you earlier. Like if we were to come here and type in the transponder code, we could change it right now. Let's just say we put 2200 in, and now that is actually, and then we could just put it on auto, and now that's actually going to be in here. You see that 22, and it's on auto as far as the transponder code. But what we want to do now is we want to mess with the FMC to get our flight going. So here we are. So let's get rid of that madness up there. The cockpit door is open right now. We won't lock it, but let's go ahead and get our flight plan initiated. So we are going to be going from Denver. Now this is your standard kind of Xplane interface here, but it's also going to mirror itself onto the touchscreens that you just saw. So let's get San Francisco in. And then now that we have that in, we can tap on align the IRS. Now hopefully that'll take however many minutes that it does, but in the meantime we can keep plugging this bad boy in. Our flight number today is United Airlines, and let me double check on my other computer. We are United Airlines 4838. Now this is a fictional, this is a real route, but it's fictional using this aircraft. They usually don't use this aircraft to fly from Denver to San Francisco. Normally they're going to use an aircraft like an A320, A321, Boeing 737, and so on and so forth. So we've got that done. Here we are right here. Now on the initialization, one thing that I do see is that it's got our cruise or flight level at 350. However, we're going for 360. Let's see if we can change that. And that's our cost index. Let's see here. We don't want that. We want our flight 060. There we go. So we got our cruise level now programmed at 360. We're going from Denver to San Francisco, so all that looks good. Now what we're going to do is come right over here into the flight plan. Normally what would happen is I would just hit this KDIN, do departure, and pick a SID. Well, for whatever reason on this aircraft, the SIDs are not available. So in essence, what I need to do right now, very briefly, is I need to check for the weather in Denver so that I can ascertain, because we don't have any air traffic control, which runway that we will be departing on. Now we are parked, I believe, at gate Alpha 31, if I'm correct. And I don't even know if it's United Gate. I had to just pick a gate in which could accommodate an aircraft this size. So I didn't check that, so it may not be all real. Again, this is a fictitious aircraft. It's a real aircraft, fictitious in the fact that we're using it to fly from Denver to San Francisco on United Airlines. So right now the wind is from, it's at 17 knots coming from basically the southwest, 220 degrees. So, you know, we can really use any runway that we so choose. So, you know, we'll just choose a runway and we'll go from there. Let me take a look at the, really quick, let me look at the diagram here. See exactly where we are located here. Alright, so Denver at the Alpha gates. So, you know, aircraft this size, we probably want to maximize our runway takeoff. So why don't we just say we'll use runway 34 left. So we will use 34 left. now I'm going to pull up the Course 3 arrival on my other computer and just make sure that that is appropriate. 3-4 left. Yeah, so that's got us leaving at 350 degrees. Then we come around and bank left. Actually, that's a really good departure for this. So we come left after reaching 5,934 feet, and then we go direct to linger. And so we will use 3-4 left. We can see here 4,879 meters, which is what we want. As you can see, I said let's pick the longest runway for takeoff, even though these engines on this aircraft are pretty reliable. So now, having said that, we are going to manually have to put in our departure. So you'll have to excuse me for that. So our first departure is linger. Our first route, I should say, on the Course 3 departure is linger. So we're going to plug that in. See, we're plugging that bad boy right in. Now we will plug in the speeds for that, in which, you know, I don't see any speed restrictions here per se. So, you know, but we also have to be realistic. We're taking off, getting up to 59.34 and turning left. So a realistic speed, you know, for this aircraft to be at there, we'll just say is maybe 190. And we need to be below 10,000 feet. 10,000 feet or below for that. So, and we have to do this. This is the only way that our VNAV is going to work. Then from linger, we're going to take Corona, not Corona, but Corona would be our next point, and that is below 11,000 feet. So we will just slowly but surely keep advancing our speed. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. There's a lot of people that they download other stuff to make this a lot quicker. However, I just find that this is more intimate with the aircraft, with your flight planning. So, you know, no big deal. We're going to start doing 250 now for everything else. O-bars will stay at 11 because the waypoint after this, it is still supposed to be at 11. Let's slide this up a little bit. And after O-bars, we come into IPEL, and that one is, you have to be at 12,000 or above. So we'll go for IPEL. And we're going to do, you know, something at 12,000 above. We can start kicking up the speed, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, we can do stuff like type in 280 and 12,000. So she gets going. All right, then after IPEL, we're doing Molson or Molson. I mean, this is a little bit more labor intensive, but I don't mind doing it. The charts are, you know, right here in front of me. So, it's you know, you to each their own. Some people, what I've seen on the forums, they really complain about, oh, it doesn't have it and it doesn't calculate it, which I'm not going to lie, the first time that I got in here and was like, oh, this thing is so technologically advanced, and then realized that I had to, you know, do this to the FMC, and I had to calculate my V speeds, which, you know, I mean, a lot of people, they just use the A330 or A340 calculations and charts, because in real life they really are there's a lack of, there's a, you know, quite a lack of information, you know, regarding this aircraft and all the charts and speeds and things of that nature. So, but you know, the thing really exists. It's really in service. It's been in service for about 2 or 3 years now, I believe. So, now the rest of these waypoints, they should jump up to our, but you know, I'm just going to put something like, you know, maybe we'll jump it up to 290, and then we'll do, you know, 24,000. There's no restriction on this one, but I'm just doing it realistically. And then Voaxa is our transition point for this departure, and you know, we'll make sure I'll start putting it at, I mean, we're at flight level 240, so at this point, we'll leave these alone and then we'll come back if we need to do something. The rest of this should populate with our cruising altitude at any rate, so we'll see. All right, so after VATSIM, I got to go back a few screens here just to get to our flight plan. Here we are. After VATSIM, we're going to hit an airway. So it's just like any other Airbus here. See, next waypoint or destination. Let me see. Let me go back. Return. Let's see. I don't think it's even going to let us do an airway. Next waypoint. It's not asking for an airway here, so that's kind of peculiar. See what happens if I just plug in this Q136, because now this is, you know, the airways, it should have it in there, not in database. So this is kind of funky because you should click on here and then it should be saying next waypoint destination, new destination. If we say next way, okay, so that's not, so that's doing something there that I can't necessarily say I like. Should be giving me an opportunity for an airway. But I tell you what, sometimes it plugs the airway in. So if I just go OAL, which is the next one, and then come back, it still doesn't. It's kind of funky, where it's not even giving me airway. So I guess we won't be on that airway for this flight. And then we are going to be coming into San Francisco on the Diamond, MD, whatever that is. Arrival. It's an RNAV 3. And MD is going to be above flight level 270. There's no speed restriction for that one. So let's do this MD. And I mean, so at least, you know, it's not all the way up to speed. And then we need to do a restriction at flight level, and you know, we'll just do 280 just to be on the safe side. And we must be above, at or above 27,000 feet. I'm hoping this thing is going to calculate the rest of the information that I'm leaving blank, per se, based off of my cruising altitude. However, we will see. So this next one, lane, is at speed restriction. You have to be at 280 knots below flight level 260, above flight level 220. So, you know, I like to go right in the middle and just do 240. All right, so this one here is lane AA in E. And then, like I said, there's a speed restriction of 280 for this point as well. And we're just going to do 24,000. Again, folks, this is the only way I can get the VNav to accurately help me out here. And let's see, we'll do flows is below 19 or flight level 190, above 14, so we'll say maybe like, you know, 16 for that. So OWZ, and same speed restriction of 280 knots. They want you to slow your ass down. Act accordingly, so we'll do that. All right, the next one at Seeds or CDs, however you pronounce it, is going to be speed restriction of 250 knots, which leads me to believe it's 10,000 or below. And, you know, it goes right to 10,000, so we should just shoot for 10,000. Again, I don't know if I'm going to have air traffic control at this point. By the time I get all the way over here, it'll be later than I anticipated, so probably not. And then freely, which is Frely. We're going to plug that bad boy in right there, and that is above 8,000 at 240 knots. You have to be at least above 240 knots. No, I'm sorry. This one you have to be exactly at 240 knots, but at or above 8,000 feet. And that is for Freely. Bada bing, bada boom. Finally, Archie, which is a transition to runway 28 left and 28 right, which I know from flying this. We hope it's not 6,821 miles, so this is the obvious choice. And Archie is going to be exactly at 8,000, so not at or above or at or below, but at 8,000. And the speed there is at 230 because the runway is not too far off from that location. So there you have it. So we've programmed everything in. Now we just need to go here and make sure that we don't have any weird looking discontinuities. Which it looks like got something funny going on here. Let's see, Archie flows. I don't know what in the world. Oh, there we go. So let's just go to the top. Make sure we're not crazy. Okay. So there's lane. There should be one before that. I really don't know what exactly happened here. Blocks. That was our transition. Cores. So 24 cores. And it's like we have several of the same ones in here. Just go to a different page and then come back to the flight plan. Okay, there we go. Caden, Linger, Krona, 11, 11, 12. Okay, so these are all making sense. Then IPEL, Molson, Cores, Boaxa, we didn't put anything in there yet. OAL, Inyo, and then this is where we start our, there we go, and then to Archie. Archie being the last one. Let's click save. And name for entire plan is gonna be, KDIN to, we'll say KSFO, of course. There we go. Now, we'll put that in and we'll just execute that. So that's the name of this plan. We don't need to name the star or anything like that. However, let's just go back. Now, let me go back over here. And as you can see, our alignment and all that stuff is done. Of course, we've been taking 50 years to get this programmed in. Alright, so we'll come back over here to the FMS, and then now we should be able to click in the flight plan, and then there we should be able to see it. So, Linger is at 10,000, 11,000, so on and so forth. We saw all that. And then if we want to scroll down, we can do that as well. You see that? So, Caden, blah, blah, Cores, Molson. Let's see. Let me just take a look at. It hasn't populated here, but that's not on the right. That's actually not on the right screen, we need to get this to our plan mode. And if we come back down here to FMS, once again, we click on, let's go to initial again, and let's go back to flight plan. All right, so here we are now. Hopefully we can make some stupid sense of this thing. Let me look at my range here. Okay, we're at the lowest possible. So it's showing Corona first, which is actually, okay, there's Linger. So here's the runway. There's Linger, Corona, okay. Corona, Obars, IPEL, Molson, Bolt, Course, Oxa, OAL, Inoue, Diamond, Lane, Flows, CDs, Freely, Archie. So it looks good to me. I mean, regardless of this thing looks funky because of the interface between the general Xplane FMC stuff, which I have updated by, with Navigraph, but it just, it's really, really peculiar, how that looks. But I love the aircraft, don't get me wrong, but it just, it's not the easiest to understand. So, but at any rate, we will, manage to work through this thing here. So, now that that's done, I need to go back and I need to take a look at our altimeter. And we need to get that populated. We need to get this bird ready to go so we can dust out of here. Let me check the weather. Alright folks, so again, the weather here in Denver, we are at altimeter 29er52. So let's just get that to 29er52. Whoa. Whoa. Went a little quick there. Alright, 29er52. That's where we need to be at. We are absolutely at 29er52. Now we just need to make sure that our primary display here is on nav, which we were going to be doing that here in a minute. Alright. Now, let's go ahead and, before we do our performance information, let's go ahead and load up our fuel. So if you go to airplane, first of all, we can put the number of passengers that we want in there. Now there are some easier ways to do it. Let's say we want a light load, it'll show you the number of passengers. And then of course if you do heavy loads, 241. Well, I'm going to configure it for 142, but then looking at this, I'll probably just add a couple. So we'll make this 35. And then of course this, I'll make this about 170. And then you can see the number, you can see the number of passengers growing. First class is kind of sparse. So let's make first class maybe 20 people. And then I need to redo this to about 170 people. Maybe hit enter. There we go. Now we're actually at 237. So let me drop it down. Let's see, I don't want to be that heavy. So business class, let's do 25, enter, 227, and then here we'll do maybe 160, 217, and let's bring that down. First class, fine, cruise 12. We'll fly at 217. No worries. So those passengers have been loaded. Now, if you go to implement, Passengers and cargo are loaded, but not the fuel. So now, of course, we need to come over here to fuel. Now these are in kilograms, even though I've asked this thing to be in pounds. Not to worry. I have went ahead and transferred those to kilograms. So we need about 16 to 30 kilograms. So if you just come here. Well, and then technically on the flight plan, you should be breaking this down. So technically, if I look at my fuel planner, it said I needed 30,000 pounds. I'll probably put an extra, let's say I'll do 35,000 pounds of fuel to be on the safe side, since this is not, it doesn't have the exact aircraft. So 35,000 pounds of fuel comes out to 15,875. So if I type in 15,875 kilograms and then hit enter, now that gives me, and it's saying the approximate range is 2,016 kilometers. Well, we come here and open up another window and measure that in, in miles, right? Because it's saying 216 kilometers to miles. Hit enter on the rusty dusty Google. That's about 1,252 miles. The trip over to Denver is about 900 miles. So even if I just left it that for the whole trip, we would be okay. For on this kilometers, and as you can see, this aircraft is really designed for a long trip. So for APU time, we're going to do 25 minutes. Taxi time, we're going to do 25 minutes. And I'm doing extra because that gives us way more than we need to get to where we're going. So for example, our whole trip on over to San Francisco is not going to be more than 1,361 miles. I'm not even going to mess with the rest of the stuff for time purposes there. But looking back at the flight aware trip, as far as the miles between one location and the next, it's 972 miles, roughly 2 hours. So if you calculate, let's say 420 or 30 nautical miles per hour times 2, that's 8. So that's about right. So on the mileage, so we're good to go. This should be more than enough flight time for us in this aircraft, and if not, guess what, we'll just do an emergency landing somewhere. Now, one thing that's pretty cool about it, it does have the performance calculator for the V speeds right here. The FMC doesn't do it. Now, if we want to go look at the runway slope, of course, I got to go back to Denver and pull up our IFR plates and go to runway 34 left. Usually any of the charts that have that runway, but I'll just do the localizer Cat 2 or 3, and then we'll see if there is any type of runway slope. If not, I always do the 0.3 for the runway slope. And the place that it shows it the best, in my opinion, is when I use my Navigraph charts on my tablet. So glide slopes 3. I'm not really seeing something here where it's giving me the runway slope. Had this been a real world flight, obviously there'd be a whole lot different than me sitting it behind the cockpit. So let's just say, for all intents and purposes, it's 0.3 on the flap setting. We are going to go there. So it is calculated our V1, VR, and V2 all at 159, which in my opinion, it's really just calculating the rotate speed. And if you if you click in here and let's say you were to do like 1.3 and then hit enter, the speeds are still the same. It's really just doing it on the flap setting. So I guess in this point it didn't matter. Let me just go back still and do my 0.3 and get it off. So there's our results in terms of our departure. As you can see, information. And then of course if you go to the cabin, door status, all automatic, all manual, we could deal with that. Now back to the fuel. One thing you notice we didn't do is we didn't implement it. Now it won't let us implement the fuel unless, oh, actually we already did. Fuel loaded, passengers and cargo loaded, fuel is loaded. So we are fully loaded. Now one thing we also need to do here once we get the flaps on is to get this percentage, I suppose, into this purple box for takeoff. So we will try and do that so that we can have a good takeoff. All right, folks. So now, with no further ado, let me just come over here and I suppose we can get our APU going. Let's jump up top and we're gonna follow, well, let's follow the APU checklist here. APU master switch, we need it on. We need the APU page on the flight display, which we'll do here in a second. APU start, push button on, and I just made that up right now. I don't even know if that stands for push button, but it sounds good to me, so I'm saying that's what it's called. All right, so let's go up and let's do exactly that. Before we do that, let's back up here, and this is the page here. It's either this side or this side that they're talking about. They want the APU data on. So we will choose. This video thing is pretty cool too. We will choose pretty. Oh, here it is. The Alpha Pi uniform. All right. So the APU screen is up. Bada bing, bada boom. So here we go. We got that up. Let's jump up top here, and let's see if we can make this thing work. All right. So as you can still see here, our bleeds and everything is off. Here is our APU on, and this is our start push button, PB. There we go. Now if we come down here and jump back down, we can see the APU coming alive, and it's coming up. And so the APU gen should already be on, as well as hopefully the bleed, but we will double check that. All right, so this is pretty cool. It tells you that the APU generator is off. So if we jump back up top until our electric panel, now we need to come and click the APU generator on, right? And the bus is tied, so we should be able to just simply click our external power off, and now we are running on the APU power. Now let's click on this APU bleed. It clicked on, so now we have the APU bleed on for the engine start, and the isolation valve is in the open position and not the auto, so we are good there. Now having the APU on, since we don't have to switch over any other power, we can go ahead and get a lot of our other information on. Again, I'm not going to mess with the fuel, the hydraulics just yet. And we can get the oxygen crew supply on. That way it's going to help us breeze through some of this checklist, which I'm not promising to do all the checklist. But now we can just simply click this. Our whole checklist is done. We can go to next. All right. Here's some information regarding the radio master frequencies 1 and 2, confirm frequencies, tone, check, you know, all that good stuff. Sound, volume, squawk page, squawk master. We kind of went through some of that already, kind of very, very high level and not really involved, but I'm going to say checked because we're not even flying online at all. COM1, select, tune, blah, 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 blah. All right, so we're going to say that that's good. All right, now we need to go and make sure our APU agent light is off. Engine 1 fire. Push button switch 1 and 2 are guarded. All engine agent lights off. Check. Test, blah, blah, blah. You guys can see I'm not really a big guy. I'm following the checklist right now. Okay, so everything that's guarded is guarded. So we're going to say that we checked that out, folks. We didn't see any lights off. We're not doing the test. Just showing you the checklist. APU start. Now this electrical power up. I don't know why it's that color, but it is. But we actually did that, so there's no shame in our game. All right, ECAM, ramp, APU, blah 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 blah. All right, so that was just the power up. Now if you go into cockpit preparation, there's all the rest of this stuff that we need to do. Taxi, blah 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 blah. I am not doing all that right now. I'm just kind of showing you guys the basic of this aircraft. You guys can take it to the extreme if you want to. However, I'm trying to get us out of here. Looks like we got somebody right over here that's already coming up on the TCAS, as you can tell. All right. Now, let's see. We were down there. Let's come up here. We'll just slide over here. Okay, so I want to increase this. There we go. That's the side thing I want to do. There we go. We want to do it by the thousands. And hopefully, just hopefully, where is she at? There we go. Just hopefully, we can have our VNav actually do what it is supposed to do. Now on that heading, leaving runway 34. Let me just check it out. So we're leaving 34 left. So the heading is going to be 353. Which, you know, this is an Airbus, so you don't really need to do that. But we need to know it, obviously. Let's see here. Our Q&A should have matched with the other one, 2952, but it didn't. Oh, come on. It doesn't want us to. It's just jumping. That's quite glitchy. Skipping right over it. You see that? You see how glitchy that is? So, by far, it's not a perfect aircraft, folks. But it is the only really detailed, or the highest detailed A350 out there at this point, given the aircraft's age. Alright, so, at any rate, fuel is loaded, passengers loaded, so let's think about, now, we could have, if you guys wanted to, look, you could have, you know, looked out at all this ground equipment that's outside, the luggage loader, fuel truck, blah, blah, blah. Well, if you jump outside, it's all out there, folks. See that? It's all here. It does everything. I mean, I'm not sure this is an adequate size baggage loader for this aircraft. And this is very foreign looking fuel truck, but However, you know, we've even got the gentleman inside, and we got this guy. Looks like he's taking a break. But nonetheless, it's there. You know, if you want to see it. I mean, if that floats your boat, just want to let you guys know it's there. In the meantime, though, what we're going to do is we are going to get rid of this stuff for our departure. So we don't need the luggage loader, the fuel truck, or the passenger bus anymore. We'll get the chocks taken away, and we'll just clear everything out. Let's go ahead and close all. Pretty slick. Now the pushback is the thing I probably like the most about this aircraft, but we'll check that out here in a minute. Now that that is done, we need to, which we should have done before, you guys are supposed to help me. We should have had our nav lights on the whole time. Now we can put our beacon lights on because we are disconnected and the APU is running. So now we can actually go and get ready for this pushback. The last thing that I will attempt to do, however, before we do pushback is to get our flappage going here. Not our flappage, but our what's the word I'm looking for here? We need to set our trims before we depart, which is a major thing. You know, me flying Xplane, it's so funny. Oh, you know what? I think I did shift page up. Yeah, there we go. And so now it's in the white. So 26.4. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. 26.4. Right there. Bada bing to this for 26.4, 26.4. So we did what we were supposed to do. That person just disappeared off the TCAS. Let me double check, make sure. And guess what, folks? We actually have Denver online at this point, and I can't even move now. 3560 is where we're supposed to program our trusty rusty dusty. So let's go 135,600 and we can switch that over.
Yeah, 521, 5x5.
All right. So they're on.
Denver Center, Infinity Air 101, we have the localizer.
Now let's see if we can get a clearance going on here. All right. Hopefully we get runway 34 left. Otherwise, we'll be leaving from a different runway and we'll just be doing direct. I don't think I'm changing anything. At this point, I'm going to stop the video and start another one with our pushback and departure.
Infinity Air 101 and 21017. You're following company.